People, what's up? Um, we're going to talk about the girl and her power, and myself, Mr. Gibbons, a little bit. Um, this is to the world leaders. I've identified the world leaders as inferior to my forefathers and foremothers, Africans who were made slaves, African slaves. So this is not my first time talking on something of, I would say, a high level. And I identified the human race as inferior to my forefathers and foremothers, African slaves, because as I do, as how I'm wired, I looked at the world and analyzed it. Everything has been honored, but my forefathers and foremothers' history and their legacy, African slaves, what they went through allowed people who are called blacks, African Americans, to be physically superior to the entire human race athletically. And that comes from the bloodline of slaves. And no ethnicity or race could ever change that or undo that. That is our inheritance because of what my forefathers and foremothers went through. Brutality. And I get on the athletes because they cowered down and have not honored who they come from. Again, I'm going to continue to get them. Our superiority over the entire human race, the world can't do nothing about that. AIDS couldn't affect it. Conspiring against it, they couldn't affect it. So they bowed down to that. Now, this child, this girl, the creator of existence flesh, she is superior to every male world leader, every prophet, as I've said. That would never change. There is nothing no one can do about it. She's over all superior athletes. Again, you exist on her land, her property. That's why Mr. Gibbons said, armored tanks, evacuate my girls, my babies, my students, and their parents. World leaders, this is not my first time speaking over you or putting you under someone or entity. And I was thinking, the girl who's over every human in existence. And I was thinking, how does she compare to my forefathers and foremothers, who I put above the entire human race? The girl and my forefathers and foremothers, Africans, who were made property of humans around the world. I do not separate them, because the creator of existence knows exactly what my forefathers and foremothers endured for the entire human race. So I do not separate them. They are their own entity. Not one is above the other. So this is not my first time, world leaders, putting you under, below, inferior to an entity. You are inferior to my forefathers and foremothers, Africans who were made slaves, their bloodline, and every human being is inferior to the girl. She's above every human being. But I don't separate or put her above my forefathers and foremothers, nor my forefathers and foremothers above her. Purity, purity. Creator of existent flesh, went through brutality and hell around the world for the entire human race. I can't put one above the other. So, world leaders, this child, as I said, she has no equal. Well, my forefathers and foremothers are long gone. But as I keep my forefathers and foremothers with me, as I keep my students with me, the living human race that exists now and that will exist, she has no equal, as I said. So world leaders, be prepared to bow down to the girl. And as I said, all monies are to be changed and have the faces of girls. Not the girl, but girls. And so men, with all of your monies, you're going to lose a hell of a lot. Because as I said, there has been a enormous. There's been an enormous change in power. And that's because of the stupidity of man, the falsality of men, the fraud of men in every industry, in front of the world, being arrogant. As I said, I don't like it, but it's righteous. And so that's what the creed of existence is. Righteous. And again, this guy's life, no matter what this situation is that I'm going through, still the best in the world. So, the girl, world leaders, she is who I say she is. Bow down to her. Because she owns the land's property, she owns the land's capability, power. That's why armored tanks have to go and pick up my girls, my babies, and their parents, and evacuate them from not only Miami, but the state of Florida. Because all those people who supposed to be quote unquote goody two shoes, just as fake as I don't know what. And so when I identify a religion that's being fake and phony, it's not actually religion that is a fraud. It's the human being that is a fraud. And so that has to be taught. And as I said, people, this is a beautiful change in power. It's righteous. And man, you're just going to have to suck it up and deal with it. If not, you won't be on her property or land. All right, this is Mr. Gibbons. Much love to my beautiful girls, their parents, and the superpower, the girl.